Now, as far as NXT stars and divas go, who can we look out for, not just on the NXT side of things, but possibly being elevated to main roster status? Well, Finn Balor is definitely a no-brainer of going to the main roster, despite what he says, and says that he wants to stay in NXT. I definitely see Finn Balor arriving on the main roster, probably at the Royal Rumble as a surprise entrant, but we'll have to wait and see. But hold on for a sec. There, go to sleep. Yeah, bird. Bedtime for the bird. But anyway, Finn Balor I definitely see as a breakout star this year. I mean, into next year. And he's definitely the kind of guy that he won't get a shot. He'll probably be put into an upper main event slot and maybe compete for the title. But I definitely see him as a guy that if he wins any kind of championship on the main roster when he arrives, it'll be probably the U.S. or the Intercontinental title. Most likely the U.S. title. Most likely. So he's someone to look out for next year, not just in NXT as he is now, but going to the main roster, probably as a surprise, starting off maybe as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble next year. Another guy, of course, is the guy he's going to be soon feuding with, if you've been paying attention to spoilers and stuff, or if you read spoilers or you don't. The guy that's been talked about he's going into a program with and feuding with Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is definitely a guy that is going to be up there on the main roster. I mean, they've already competed on the main roster stage as part of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic as well as in dark matches. They've proven themselves. So to me, Samoa Joe is another guy to look out for. And I definitely see him, just like with Joe, being in that upper main event, upper mid-card status, and maybe being an Intercontinental or U.S. champion. So he's definitely someone to look out for as well. Another person, hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. Anytime I hear a car coming around, I might think it's my mom coming home. So, anyway, another guy, like I was saying, that we definitely have to look out for next year, because it sounds like he's going to be signing on with the company soon, is James Storm. Now, unless TNA somehow says, here's all the money, here you go, here you go, here you go. James Storm has already alluded he's going to be on the European tour, the UK tour next year. I mean, this December. So, it sounds like James Storm is NXT WWE bound. And next year is definitely a year to look out for him, not just on NXT, but basically the main roster. Now, will he get there as soon as Joe and Balor do? No. I see him basically as a guy that's going to be in NXT. I do see him at least getting one run, maybe a few months run, with the NXT Championship. Maybe WWE's way of rubbing it in TNA's face, saying, this is how you give a guy like him a championship run. But I do see him getting a run with the NXT title. I do maybe see a heel turn, perhaps, in the future. Because, you know, let's face it, he just came off, in a sense, came off Impact Television as a heel. Now he comes in as a babyface, and he's still doing this, which was part of the Revolution. Yeah, I definitely think I definitely see a heel turn in his future. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, that's one thing to look forward to with James Storm. And again, I definitely see maybe a few months reign as champion, and I see maybe towards the late part of the summer next year, maybe into the fall. I would say this way: midway through the summer of next year and into the early portion of the fall in 2016 is when I see James Storm coming up to the main roster. Now, if they decide to bring him up faster, that'll be a surprise, because he basically has the stock, if you will. He basically has the stock in the background and everything that people will know, even the main WWE audience will know who he is. So, but in reality-wise, my opinion, I definitely see maybe between the midway through the summer into the early portion of the fall next year that you might see James Storm arrive on the main roster full time. Because if he's being brought in as a player coach, if you will, in the company, then I do see that. I definitely see a more legitimate, I would even go as far as to say maybe the earliest we would see him is like Balor and Joe. You might see him as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. But that's it. And I would say at the earliest, maybe late spring, like let's say a little after Extreme Rules going into the summer, might be the earliest you see him on the main roster. Maybe. But I definitely see him having a run with the NXT Championship. And like I said, between, I would say, late spring, early fall next year, between that time frame is when you might see him arrive officially on the main roster for WWE. Maybe. A diva you need to look out for, whether you like her in-ring style or you don't, is Nia Jax. Now, despite how you feel about her, she does come from the family of The Rock and all that, and Roman Reigns. So you know that she's going to be probably, despite how good she could get, because she definitely is going to need more seasoning, I definitely see her having a run with the NXT Women's title next year. I see that happening. I see her getting a run with the title. And I would say, if WWE doesn't rush it and they do it right, I would say maybe mid-summer we might see Nia Jax arrive on the main roster with the Divas. If they don't rush it. If they decide, hey, we want Nia Jax on there because we need an attraction, that's rushing it. You're going to kill it. You're going to basically make the same mistake you did with Eva Marie. I mean, yeah, she's better than Eva Marie, no question about it, but still, you'd be making a mistake. So to me, take your time, and I definitely see maybe, I'd say the same thing with Storm. I'd say post-WrestleMania at the earliest, you would see Nia Jax on the main roster. But I would also see her before that, or even during that time, as having a run with the NXT Women's title. And when she does arrive on the main roster, whether it's post-WrestleMania or post-Money in the Bank or post-SummerSlam, expect her, whether she has gotten better in that ring or not, expect her to be in top contention for the Divas title right off the bat. Don't kid yourself or sell yourself short. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. Again, don't sell yourself short on thinking it won't, because it will. Another one definitely to look out for, especially going to the main roster status next year, is Bayley and Asuka, Kana, if you will. These two right now are on the verge of main roster stardom. Asuka is down there in NXT to hone her skills, to learn the ways of WWE, just like Hideo Itami is. But expect her next year, I would say post-WrestleMania, both her, I'd say her, this is the way I look at it. Post-Royal Rumble, between the Royal Rumble and Mania, I see Bayley arriving. Maybe even sooner, maybe even post-Survivor Series. Let's just put it that way. I'd say before this year's out, I would say between now and after the Rumble, Bayley arrives. And I'd say after WrestleMania, Asuka arrives as well. So, yeah, the Divas division is going to get an influx of talent. It's going to get a shot in the arm of talent when it comes to Asuka and Bayley next year. Maybe even sooner, as soon as the end of this year with Bayley. But those are the two to definitely look out for, not only in NXT right now, but going onto the main roster. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't think you can deny that's not going to happen. Another person to look out for is Hideo Itami, Of course, we all know he got injured this year. He's coming back, hopefully, and definitely look for him to have 2016 to be his year again, and expect him maybe to end up on the main roster a lot sooner than expected, as maybe to make up for the fact that his NXT run was cut short because of an injury. So expect him to show up on the main roster a lot sooner, and maybe expect him to be one of the first real feuds post NXT feuds Kevin Owens will have, maybe for the Intercontinental Championship, maybe even for the WWE title. Who knows? And the same can go for this guy, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, we know, is coming back. We know he's probably going to do a brief run with NXT, and then he's heading straight for the main roster. I would expect his debut or re-debut to be at the Royal Rumble as an entrant. I've got a feeling they've got something planned where Kevin Owens is going to dominate, and as soon as the next entrant comes out, it's going to be Sami, and that's going to be your start for Kevin, if he's still Intercontinental Champion by then, to probably lose that title to somebody, maybe at Elimination Chamber or Mania. That will be your feud for Owens going into Mania season, perhaps. But Sami Zayn definitely, like Hideo told me, I believe he's going to do an NXT run, just a brief one, and he's going to end up on the main roster full time. And expect Sami Zayn to maybe be Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania if they do it right. Another person to look now, as far as tag teams go, like I said, there are several NXT teams that I mentioned earlier in the other video, the first part, that I believe are going to be heading up to the main roster soon. As far as some newer teams go, Jordan and Gable, everybody's high on them. I see them getting a run with the NXT tag titles, and I also see them arriving on the main roster post-WrestleMania. I really do. I see them as being the ones that will knock off the Mechanics, Dawson and Dash, who, in case you don't know, are the new NXT champions. I see them knocking them off, and I see the Mechanics, as well as Clark and Gable, as well as Jordan and Gable, both heading up to the main roster. The Mechanics I could probably see maybe by the end of the Royal Rumble, post-Royal Rumble. I could see that. Jordan and Gable, I definitely see after WrestleMania at most on the main roster. I really see that. I mean, that's the honest truth. Vaudevillains I already know are going to be heading there soon. But like I said, Jordan and Gable I definitely see heading up to that area as well. I definitely see that. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, but I see it happening. I really do. And, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we had some teams in there. The Hype Brothers, the Hype Bros, if you will, Mojo and Zach. I know Zach's doing this to revitalize his career. They're to look out for an NXT still. I think they might get a run with the titles, but I think they'll be probably one of those exceptions that goes up to the main roster in the tag team division without winning a title. I just see that happening. I just see that happening. Another guy to look out for as well is Baron Corbin. Definitely, you can definitely tell a lot of people are high up on this guy, despite how much more seasoning he needs. You can see he's improving. He's getting more innovative. That he's learning and stuff. So I definitely see Baron Corbin as a breakout star next year. Maybe he finally gets a run with the NXT title. I can't really say. But if not, just like with the Hype Brothers, he might be one of those exceptions that goes up to the main roster. And just like with Joe and Balor and maybe Storm, makes a surprise entrance. Is a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble next year. And might even have a dominant run. He might do what Rusev did when Rusev, when he was still an NXT star, made his Royal Rumble debut. He dominated, in a sense. He didn't dominate pure elimination-wise, but he dominated. He was, it took a lot of people to get rid of him. I see next year's Royal Rumble, Baron Corbin, if he shows up as an entrant, being the exact same thing. Maybe even having a few eliminations to maybe adding a few eliminations to his belt. So, but that's just basically the WWE/NXT stars to look out for in 2016, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with some of my decisions? Or do you have anybody else in mind? Let me know down below, and I'll talk to you all later.